If you've been following Apple's latest product lineup, you might have noticed something unusual this year. While the iPhone 17 and 17 Pro Max are flying off shelves, another model, well, isn't. I'm talking about the iPhone Air, of course, Apple's sleek, ultra-thin device that was supposed to redefine what a lightweight flagship could be. But just 2 months after launch, reports say Apple is drastically cutting production of the iPhone Air due to virtually no demand. So, what went wrong? Why aren't people buying Apple's newest iPhone? And could this be another iPhone mini situation? A product that looked great on paper but failed to find its audience? Today, let's break down exactly what's happening to the iPhone Air, what Apple was trying to do, and why customers just don't seem to care. But before we go on, if you end up enjoying this video and want to see more great Apple content, hit a like and subscribe please. When Apple first introduced the iPhone Air, it was positioned as a design statement. It was the thinnest iPhone ever made, at just 5.6 millimeters thick, yet built with a titanium frame and powered by the same A19 Pro chip found in the iPhone 17 Pro. Apple marketed the phone as a breakthrough in design, a way to get pro-level performance in a device that felt almost impossibly light. It features a gorgeous 120Hz ProMotion OLED display, new battery chemistry, and a completely re-engineered cooling system. So on paper, it sounded like the perfect blend of performance and portability. But fast forward to a few weeks after launch and reports from reputable media outlets such as Nikkei Asia, The Verge, and 9to5Mac all paint the same picture. The iPhone Air just isn't selling, which is sad because it is my favorite iPhone release this year, but I'll get to that later. Let's rewind a bit. So, when pre-orders opened, tech analysts quickly noticed something odd. The iPhone Air never sold out. While Pro models had multi-week back orders, Apple stores showed available for pickup today for almost every iPhone Air configuration. At first, people, myself included, assumed that Apple had simply prepared better supply for the iPhone Air. But according to reports from Mac Rumors and other experts, the truth was simpler. There just wasn't much demand for it. Even on Reddit, users pointed out how unusual that was. I just checked all iPhone configurations ship dates. After almost 3 hours, pre-orders went live. I'm surprised to see all versions of the iPhone Air are still available, and that the iPhone 17 Pro Max seems to be the most affected by demand. I think what's going on here is that Apple overestimated how much people care about thinness. And that brings us to the first major reason why the iPhone Air failed to take off. And in my opinion, this is the biggest reason. The value to price ratio. The iPhone Air starts at $1,000, $999, which is $100 shy of the $1,099 starting point of the iPhone 17 Pro. At the same time, the iPhone Air is $200 more than the base iPhone 17, which starts at $799. For most people, that's already a premium price, $1,000 for a phone. But here's the issue. The Air doesn't really offer anything more than the base model, which is $800, other than being thinner and lighter. The Air features just one camera, a wide lens, compared to the dual or triple lens systems on the 17 and 17 Pro respectively. It also has no macro or cinematic photos and videos, a worse battery, slower charging, and only one speaker at the top, which is usually the weaker speaker, so no stereo audio there. Compared to the iPhone 17, you're actually paying more for less. Pull back the superior aesthetics and ergonomics, and you'll find the only thing the iPhone Air offers over the 17 is that the back glass is made of Apple's ceramic shield, meaning in theory, it should be at least more scratch resistant, if not more drop resistant. And I guess it has the A19 Pro chip found in the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max models, but the thing is, this phone is thinner than the base 17 with a regular A19 chip, so there should be less space for thermal regulation and the phone could still end up throttling performance more than the 17 would. So in actuality, a better design and ergonomics are all you get when you pay this $200 upcharge, and you end up losing out on battery life, charging speed, camera features, as well as speaker quality. If anything, it seems to me like this should have been the exact same price as the iPhone 17. Then people would just have to choose between the admittedly gorgeous and futuristic design or the more practical features of the base 17. And that is in fact what I initially thought. I thought the iPhone 17 and the Air were the same price, So it was a no-brainer for me to go with the Air since I like to be on the bleeding edge of things, especially when it comes to design. But having to forgo all those features, as well as pay $200 more, just makes it a weirder choice to make. Although, I do like the way Apple balanced things out on all models when it came to the display, because that's one category where I really do not like to compromise in, and all the displays have the same peak brightness, the same max outdoor brightness, the same 120Hz OLED panel. They're all just amazing. Anyway, if the base 17 and the Air were at the same price, that would make more sense and be more straightforward in buyers deciding which iPhone to get. That mismatch between price and perceived value turned off a lot of potential buyers. People who spend over $1,000 on a phone expect everything. They want a well-rounded, complete device that shows up in every aspect, not compromised in some for better design. They want multiple cameras, the longest battery life, and the best features Apple can offer. And when you position a device as the Air, most consumers assume it's the cheaper version because of the name, like the MacBook Air or iPad Air. But in this case, it's weirdly not cheaper. It's lighter and thinner, but still premium priced. That branding disconnect is a huge part of why people aren't biting, at least not yet. So yeah, apart from the Air just offering straight up worse value for money, it also confuses people, which is the second issue with the iPhone Air. Historically, the Air title in Apple's lineup has always meant affordable and lightweight. The MacBook Air is cheaper and lighter than the Pro. The iPad Air is cheaper, but I guess not lighter anymore. Apple's getting weird. So when Apple brought that name to the iPhone lineup, some people naturally assumed it would be a lighter and cheaper option, a la iPhone mini. But that wasn't the case. The iPhone Air is still a flagship priced device with a flagship chip, but in a thinner, compromised body. That's why so many buyers found it confusing. Apple seems to have misjudged where the iPhone Air fits in its lineup. Did you know that if you wanted to buy the new MagSafe battery pack for the iPhone Air so the battery can comfortably sit with the Pro models, you'd have to spend $100 more, bringing the price right up to exactly the same as an iPhone 17 Pro. The MagSafe battery, which on its own is a bit of a compromise because it does take away the thinness, which is the whole use of getting the iPhone Air in the first place, and it can only charge the iPhone Air up to 65% for some godforsaken reason. Other battery packs or charging cases can do 100%, but the one made by Apple for the iPhone Air stops at 65%. But anyway, the thing is, when customers can't immediately tell who a product is for, they default to the options they already understand, and in Apple's case, that usually means either the base model or the Pro model. There's no denying that the iPhone Air looks and feels incredible though. The most comfortable iPhone to hold in years, which is actually what makes it my personal favorite iPhone of this lineup. I guess I'm not the average user, so my view is a little different here. But I really like tech that feels bleeding edge, tech that feels new. The iPhone Air is just that. Honestly, you have to hold this phone in person to really understand. The first time I picked it up, I did not want to go back to holding a 17 or 17 Pro. They felt chunky, they felt rugged, didn't feel nearly as smooth or premium to hold. The Air felt like I was holding a magic sheet of glass, kind of reminiscent of holding the M4 iPad Pro. And that to me is enough to make it my favorite iPhone because, simply put, it feels different from the iPhones I've been using for the past few years. I also really like that they stuck with titanium on this, which feels leagues better than the mostly aluminum design of the Pros. I obviously understand though that this doesn't make it the best iPhone, as it is lacking in some really important areas, but I'm a design guy, so it's enough to get me really excited. But that design unfortunately came with real compromises. While thinness is impressive, most people would rather have a more reliable camera, better battery life, and a better speaker in exchange for a few millimeters and a few grams on the weight. The iPhone Air is cool, but not practical. The last factor with the iPhone Air's sales issue is timing. Smartphone sales all around the world have plateaued. People are upgrading less often, sometimes every 3 or 4 years instead of every 1 or 2. That means new models need to offer clear, tangible improvements to convince buyers, especially if it's a departure from the Pro and base models they're already used to. It's experimental, so it really needs to prove itself. And while Apple thought the iPhone Air's design would be that improvement, it turns out most people care more about functionality than form. Real shocker there. And the iPhone Air is a niche device that doesn't really fit into the mainstream buyer's priorities. So, what happens when Apple realizes the model isn't selling? They cut production. Fast. Analysts report that the iPhone Air output will drop to less than 10% of its September production volume by November. At the same time, Apple is ramping up manufacturing for the iPhone 17 and 17 Pro phones to meet higher demand. That's a clear sign that the company recognizes that the Air isn't performing well. Analysts also describe Apple's move as approaching end of production mode, although it's not officially discontinued yet. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean the Air is gone forever. Apple could still try again next year, maybe tweaking the strategy, but it's hard not to draw parallels to the iPhone mini, which was quietly phased out after weak sales. That device too was designed for a niche, people who wanted smaller phones, but the market for that just wasn't big enough. The iPhone Air might be suffering the same fate, just on opposite ends of the spectrum. So, what this means for Apple's lineup? The challenge now is figuring out where the iPhone Air fits, if it fits anywhere at all. They've experimented with 4 distinct models over the past few years: the base iPhone, the Plus or Mini, the Pro, and the Pro Max. The iPhone Air was supposed to take the place of the Plus/Mini, a way to keep a 4th model without crowding the lineup, but sales data suggests that buyers are clustering around mostly the base iPhone and the Pro Max. That might push Apple to simplify the lineup again, focusing on fewer, more clearly defined tiers. And given that Apple is reportedly boosting iPhone 17 orders while slashing Air production, that realignment may already be in progress. But at the end of the day, the iPhone Air isn't a bad phone. It's beautifully engineered, stunningly thin, and a marvel of design. Still my personal favorite entry to the iPhone lineup this year, as the design makes it the most interesting and bleeding edge feeling model to me. But like many Apple products, it shows that design alone isn't enough to drive massive sales. Not when customers have clearer, better, more defined options sitting right next to it. They built an incredible piece of hardware, but not a compelling reason to buy it. So while the iPhone Air might go down as one of Apple's most elegant devices, it's also shaping up to be one of its biggest commercial misfires. Whether Apple learns from this and how they adjust future iPhone lineups will be fascinating to watch. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more Apple-focused documentaries and breakdowns just like this one. Also, let me know what you think about the iPhone Air in the comments.